One and all, so we're going to recap equations of lines at the beginning and then look at parallel and perpendicular lines. Sorry, I'm not the camera there. Okay, so first one, we're finding the equation of a line if the gradient is a third and we know the point that it passes through is -4, 3. So remember, the equation that you will always be using is y minus y1 is equal to m brackets x minus x1. Now remember, in that, the single y and the single x will always stay as an x and a y. The y1 and x1 will be replaced with your x1 value and your y1 value. So basically your coordinate. Just remember the first term in the bracket is your x value, the second term is your y value. So what we've got is y minus 3 is equal to a third of x minus -4. So there's quite a bit of tidying up to do. First of all, if you've got two minuses together, we know that's going to become a plus. Now, because quite often what they'll say in this sort of question is to leave your answer in the form ax plus by plus c equals 0. What they're saying is they just want everything to be nice whole numbers, no fractions involved anywhere, and everything on one side of the equal sign. So to get rid of the fraction, first thing we're going to do is times through by 3. So if I times this side by 3, I get 3y minus 9 equals, and then I've just got 1 left out of my brackets, which has now become a +4. From there, you're just expanding brackets. So 1 times x is 1x, 1 times 4 is 4, and all we want is everything on the same side. Now, it doesn't actually matter which side you take it onto, but since they've put ax at the front, I'm going to keep the x term positive. So I'm going to subtract 3y. I've got minus 9 is equal to x minus 3y plus 4, and then I'm going to add 9. So I get 0 is equal to x minus 3y, add 13, and that's it. That's my answer. Okay, I've got everything on one side of the equal sign. Everything's nice whole numbers. No fractions involved anywhere, so it's all we're looking for. All right, example 2, a little bit of a trickier gradient. Okay, but still follows along the same lines. So I know this is my x1 value, this is my y1 value. So I've got y minus -5 is equal to gradient first, so -3/4 of x minus, and then my x value is 2. So I've replaced the y value, the x value, and the gradient. Okay, so all we're going to do is times up by 4, because again, we don't want any fractions involved. So if I times through by 4, bearing in mind that those two minuses would become a plus, I've got 4 times y is 4y, 4 times 5 is 20, and then I've still got a -3 outside of the brackets. Notice each time it's not affected what's inside the brackets. So expanding those brackets, so I've got 4y plus 20 is -3x, add 6. And then what we're going to do is same as before, we're leaving it in that form ax plus by plus c equals 0. So again, I want the x term really to be positive if I can. So I'm going to add 3x to both sides. So I've got 3x plus 4y plus 20. And I've still got equals 6. And then if I subtract 6, I get 3x plus 4y plus 14 is equal to 0. And that's it. I've got my equation. Everything on one side of the equal sign, and everything nice whole numbers. Right, this is where it then gets slightly different. So we're going to do parallel lines first, and then we're going to do perpendicular ones. Obviously, if you don't need to listen through this bit, that's absolutely fine. I know some of you might have got the hang of this, but there's a lot of people who are still getting a little bit confused. So what we've got is the most important thing to remember first whenever you are doing parallel or perpendicular lines. To identify the gradient of the line that you're given, it must be in the format y equals mx plus c. Now, m can be as complicated as it needs to be. C can be as complicated as it needs to be. But it must be a single y. Okay? If you've got a number in front of y, you need to divide through first. So in this case, m is my gradient, remember? So in this one, my gradient is 3. And because it's parallel, I know that's two lines that are never going to meet, so they must have the same gradient, in which case I'm using a gradient of 3 and this point, and then we're going to do everything we've done before. So I've got y minus 2 is equal to 3 lots of x minus -6. Again, got that double negative, so it's going to become a plus. So I get y minus 2 is equal to 3x plus 18. Okay, 3 times x is 3x, 3 times 6 is 18. From there, all we're going to do is, this one's a nice easy one to leave actually in the form y equals mx plus c by just adding 2 to both sides. I'd get y equals 3x plus 20, and that's it. Nice and simple. That's my answer. Right, so this is the one where I said be very careful. This must be in the right format first. So if I've got y plus 3x minus 2 equals 0, first thing we're going to do is make it say y equals. So if I add 2 to both sides, I get y plus 3x equals 2. I can then subtract 3x. So I get y equals minus 3x plus 2. Okay, now I've written it that way around rather than writing 2 minus 3x, just so that it is in the format y equals mx plus c. So you can see my m value is minus 3. And again, if these are parallel, I'm using a gradient of minus 3. So I've got y minus my y value, so minus 4, equals gradients minus 3, brackets x minus minus 1. So a lot of double negatives there to deal with, one there and one there. So what I've actually got is y plus 4 on the left hand side, and on this side minus 3 times x is minus 3x, minus 3 times 1 is minus 3. And then all I'm going to do is subtract 4 from both sides, so y is equal to minus 3x minus 7, and that's it. I've got my equation of my line. Okay, last two examples are where it gets that little bit trickier again. This time is perpendicular lines. Now, the first thing you need to remember is to get a perpendicular line, you take your original gradient, you flip your gradient and change the sign. Okay, so flip the gradient and change the sign. Just remember, if your gradient is something like 2, when we say flip it, it becomes 1 over 2. If it was 5, it would become 1 over 5, and so on. So in this case, first of all, this is in the format y equals mx plus c. So the gradient of this line is 2. So if the gradient of the line I'm given is 2, the gradient of our perpendicular line, which I'm going to write MP, is flip the gradient, so it's 1 over 2. Change the sign so it's not positive anymore, it's negative. So I've got, using my point and my new gradient, I've got y minus 3 is equal to minus a half of x minus 2. And this is another one where we're going to get rid of the fractions, don't like dealing with them. So if I times by 2 first, I get 2y minus 6 is equal to, and then I'm left with a minus 1 outside the brackets. Okay, same as before, expand your brackets. Okay, minus 1 times x is minus x, minus 1 times minus 2 is positive 2. And then again, we're going to try and keep that x term positive, so I'm going to add x to both sides. X plus 2y minus 6 equals 2, and then we're going to subtract 2. And I've got, again, my equation of the line. Okay, next one, same idea again, but just remember, it must be in the format y equals mx plus c first. So before we start, we're going to rearrange our equation to say y equals. So if I add 2x to both sides, I get 3y equals 2x plus 5. And then if I divide by 3, now normally we just write this all over 3. Because I'm going to be reading off a gradient, we're going to actually write it as 2/3 x plus 5/3. So we've done each term individually. That means the gradient of this line is 2/3. So the gradient of my perpendicular line, remember, is flip the gradient, so it's now 3 over 2, and change the sign so it's gone from positive to negative. Okay, so I'm using this point and my new gradient, so I get y minus minus 4 is equal to minus 3 over 2 lots of x minus 3. And I've just written, I realised I've written rather big, so 2 minuses make a plus. So first thing we're going to do is get rid of the bottom of the fraction, same as before. If I times by 2, I get 2y plus 8 equals, and I've still got minus 3 outside the brackets. Then we're going to expand your brackets. So minus 3 times x is minus 3x, minus 3 times minus 3 is positive 9. And again, everything onto the left-hand side to make that x term positive. So if we add 3x, I get 3x plus 2y plus 8 equals 9. And then we're going to subtract 9, 3x, add 2y, minus 1 equals 0. And I've got my perpendicular line. Okay, feel free to listen through those again. Okay, but you've done all of these different ones before. It's just kind of a recap and making sure we can use this formula correctly and there's no mistakes. Please remember to rearrange these into the form y equals mx plus c for this to work.